I remember the story of Helen. She was 6 years of age, and she was playing the piano, and unbeknown to her parents, she overheard them say, "Oh, Helen is so clumsy. She'll never be able to play the piano well." So ever thereafter, whenever Helen played the piano, she played clumsily to prove to the world that what her parents said about her was true. When she grew up and she was 13 and 14, she always played clumsily to prove to the world that what her parents said were true. Not only that, when she used her fingers to sew and to cook, she was clumsy to prove to the world that what her parents said about her was true. I said to her, "My dear child, you can't be held responsible for the actions of other people, even if they be your parents. Your parents probably meant that you were clumsy at that time. You weren't thinking of your piano playing. They didn't meant to think that you were clumsy forever." Yes. She got the message, so she removed that little scar within her, because a year later, she played better.
90% of the men and women alive today have an image of themselves as distorted as the reflection in a fun house mirror. Since they see themselves as distorted and warped, they act that way. The first and basic truth of cybernetics, the one you must learn in order to unlock the door to a better life, is image is all. The full implications of this all-important truth started to take shape more than 30 years ago, as a young plastic surgeon began to sort through the photographs that were the record of his professional accomplishments. By giving his patients a new face, he often found he had given them a new self-image. It was no longer necessary for them to hate themselves and to believe everyone else hated them too. But always, there were a few puzzling exceptions. Girls made beautiful again, men saved from ugliness, with no change in their personality. It was then Dr. Maltz began to be fully aware of the implications of self-image. What you are and look like to the rest of the world means nothing. All that counts is what you look like to yourself. You are happy or unhappy, sick or well, successful or unsuccessful, only as your own self-image demands that you be. That plastic surgeon was Dr. Maltz. And it was then he began to be aware of the importance of the self-image. Today, Dr. Maltz is internationally famous. Millions have read about Dr. Maltz and his discovery, and still more have heard about him.
Well, that was in 1967. Here we are, nearly 30 years later. The original Psycho-Cybernetics book continues to be a resilient bestseller, largely thanks to one person telling another how it has changed their life. Over 30 million people worldwide have been positively influenced by Dr. Maltz's work. Now, you're about to benefit from the ultimate system for personal success based on all of Dr. Maltz's works, Zero Resistance Living. First, though, we'll travel back in time and sit in as Dr. Maltz personally discusses the important history of psycho-cybernetics.
Why is self-image so important?
The self-image sets the boundaries of human accomplishment. It is the key to your personality, to your behavior, to your character. Enlarge the scope of your self-image through confidence, and you enlarge the scope of what you can do in this world to reach self-fulfillment. Most people have an idea that they are either born to succeed or born to fail, that they're happiness prone or unhappiness prone. That is not true. Many years ago, a beautiful young girl of 18, Anna by name, came to my office. She was in an auto accident. Her left cheek was disfigured. I gave her back her beauty. She looked into the mirror and said, "I don't see any difference." I showed her the pictures taken immediately after the accident, showing her scar. She looked at the pictures, then into the mirror, and finally said, "Well, I see a difference, but I don't feel any different." I probed into her background, into her past, and ascertained that 2 years before the accident, she was engaged to a young man who suddenly ran off and married someone else. That left her with hurt feelings, with feelings of depression, resentment, that she was nobody. In other words, she had an inner scar long before she had the scar on her face. I said to her, "My dear child, you can't be held responsible for the actions of someone else." She got the message. A year later, she married another man. It suddenly dawned on me then that as a plastic surgeon, it might be a wonderful idea if I could write a book for the 90% of the people all the world over who have normal faces but some inner emotional scar, write a book for them to show them how they could be their own plastic surgeon and remove the scar within them that they put there, remove it like Anna did. And so I wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics.
What does psycho-cybernetics mean?
Well, cybernetics comes from the Greek word which means a helmsman, a man who steers a ship to port. And psycho-cybernetics means steering your mind to a productive, useful goal so that you too can reach port. And what is your port? Peace of mind. My friend Salvador Dali, the famous Spanish painter, gave me a painting of his concept of psycho-cybernetics. In the center of this painting is a world divided in two parts. The left is a world in shadow from frustration. Here you have man's image shrunken to the size of a small potato, moving away from reality, from the world, towards the black angel of destruction. Below you see a ship without any sails, about to capsize in the rough seas of frustration. The other half of man's inner world is a world of sunlight through confidence. Here man's image is 10 feet tall, and he's walking towards the sun. A swallow is flying toward the sun. Below, you see a ship in calm waters about to reach port. And what is this port? Peace of mind. And so we, as individuals, must realize that we have two worlds within us. A world in shadow from frustration and a world in sunlight from confidence. And we can easily learn to walk away from this shadowed world of frustration into the dawn of a new world through confidence. Therefore, the first fundamentally important lesson of psycho-cybernetics is that you have a self-image and that you can change your self-image.
I've heard that people are going to be the way they always are going to be by the time they're in grade school. How can older people change?
Age doesn't mean anything, because at any age, if you learn that negative feelings make your image shrink to the size of a small potato, and if you learn to turn your back on the failures of the past and concentrate on the confidence of yesterday and use that confidence today, now, N-O-W, in your present undertaking, you will learn how to succeed in life. There are 11 other lessons or steps, and the second one is that you have a success mechanism within you, a self-servo mechanism that will steer your mind to a productive goal if you will let it. For example, when I want to pick up this pen, I pick it up successfully without effort. But as a child, I zigzagged many, many times before I knew how to do it successfully. I forgot the failures, and as a child, I just remembered the past successes and use it now as an adult. In the same way, you could learn to pick up success and happiness by forgetting your past. If in a present undertaking you want to achieve a goal, you call upon your past experiences, the sum total of which is in a tiny electronic computer, a tiny tape recorder in your midbrain. If you call upon your past successes, you succeed. If, on the other hand, you call upon your past failures, you fail even before you start, simply because you cannot think positively with negative feelings more than you can think negatively with positive feelings. Therefore, your first two lessons of creative psycho-cybernetics are, one, that you have a self-image and that you can improve it. The second step or lesson is that you have a self-servo mechanism or success mechanism that steers your mind to a productive goal, which is what psycho-cybernetics really is. Your third important lesson teaches you that you can use your imagination either constructively or destructively.
How can a person make his imagination either positive or negative?
Well, because you are the product of your imagination, win, lose, or draw. If a boy at school thinks he's stupid because he was told he was stupid, he will act and prove to the world that he is stupid. If a salesman who has failed in one undertaking feels that he's a failure, he will always act as a failure to prove to the world he's a failure. When people who are in a habit of shortchanging themselves realize the potential within them, that they can rise to their full stature of self-respect as somebody, the results are fantastic. They realize that they're better than what they think they are through psycho-cybernetics. The whole secret of reaching self-fulfillment and self-respect and success as a human being by remembering, and remembering only this, that is the opinion of yourself that counts. If you think well of yourself because of some accomplishment and have that confidence which brings a smile to your self-image, you will succeed. On the other hand, if you think in negative terms because of some frustration, believing that you are a failure because of that one error, you will fail unless you change your self-image like Anna did.
Can a person do this by themselves, or do they need some sort of help?
They can do that absolutely by themselves if they realize that most people shortchange themselves. They think because they fail, they're a failure. A mistake doesn't make a failure. The business of living is to rise above a mistake. That's what success is, not just being successful. The whole business of success is the capacity to rise above a blunder, a failure. And that's how you do it, by using your imagination constructively. The fourth lesson of psycho-cybernetics teaches you not only to think creatively, but act creatively. You learn to reach your goal by exercising your servo mechanism, your success mechanism, refusing to be sidetracked by negative feelings. You learn to do one thing at a time. You learn to live in the present. The past is forgotten, lost in the tomb of time. If a situation in the present defies solution, you sleep on it, not with it. And in that way you permit your success mechanism to work subconsciously while you sleep.
Will this work on everyone?
It'll work on anyone who has negative feelings. And all of us at some time have negative feelings. But I'd like to stress one point. When I talk about frustration, I don't mean frustration during a day. Everyone has that. What I'm talking specifically about is chronic frustration, the problems of yesterday that you continually bring in to every day, where you carry 45 pounds of extra mental weight on your mental back. It's the repetition of this kind of negative feeling of the past that you carry into the present that makes it chronic frustration that I'm opposed to, and that you can turn your back on these negative feelings by concentrating on the past only if you remember the confidence of the past. You live in the present now, N-O-W. And you also learn the art of relaxation, which is the fifth important lesson of psycho-cybernetics.
How do you relax with confidence so you can achieve success?
You can program success like a computer is programmed. And you do that by forgetting your past failures, refusing to permit negative feelings of yesterday to dominate your chances for success today. Instead, you concentrate on your successes, on the confidence of past successes that you use in the present. You improve your self-image when you learn the important aspect of relaxation. One, you forgive others with no strings attached. Two, you forgive yourself. Three, you see yourself at your best as a person of confidence. Four, you learn to keep up with yourself, not with someone else. The sixth lesson teaches you the power of beliefs. Now, these beliefs can be either true or false, but if you believe them, you'll act that part. Beliefs become habits, and habits are nothing more than self-hypnosis, just like you learn to brush your teeth. The important aspect of the sixth lesson is that you learn to dehypnotize yourself from negative beliefs as Anna did. You learn to live happily and successfully. There are 3 8-hour periods to a day. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for relaxation, and 8 hours for sleep. And those 8-hour periods, those middle 8-hour periods are very vital to you. You are a king or a queen during those 8 hours. Who asked you to bring the troubles of your office into your home? Who asked you to bring the troubles of your home into your office? During those middle 8-hour periods, you learn to improve your self-image by concentrating on your success, and you make your image grow as tall as you want it to be. Which brings us to the 7th lesson, the quest for happiness. Believe it or not, happiness is a habit.
You mean unhappiness is a habit, too?
It's just as much a habit as happiness, and it's just as easy to be happy as unhappy. You must learn that happiness belongs to you, like your eyes, like your heart, like your pulse. You reach for it. But when you reach for it, you must remember that you must not step on other people's toes, and what's equally important, you must not step on your own toes with negative feelings. Regardless of your age, regardless of your calling, regardless of your training, experience, or education, one thing common to every human being is the desire to be happy. The 8th lesson or step in creative psycho-cybernetics teaches you the various phases of the success mechanism, which will make your image grow as tall as you want it to be. S-U-C-C-E-S-S. That spells success. S, a sense of direction, your goal. U, understanding, where you understand your needs and the needs of other people. C, courage. C, compassion. E, esteem, self-respect. S, self-acceptance, that you are somebody even though you've made a mistake, you rise above it. And finally, S, self-confidence. These are the 7 aspects of success that will make your image grow as tall as you want it to be. The 9th lesson in creative psycho-cybernetics teaches you about the failure mechanism which scars your self-image, and you learn about it only to realize the enemy within you in order to avoid it. F-A-I-L-U-R-E, which spells failure. F, frustration, which brings A, aggressiveness of the wrong kind, which brings I, insecurity, which brings L, loneliness, the great scourge of mankind, which brings U, uncertainty, which brings R, resentment, which brings E, emptiness, which makes you walk away from life, from reality. You remember F-A-I-L-U-R-E in order to avoid it and concentrate on the success mechanism within you. The 10th lesson in creative psycho-cybernetics teaches you how to be your own plastic surgeon, where you learn to remove the emotional scar within you that you put there yourself. You learn to be your own plastic surgeon by remembering to be too big to be threatened, by remembering to be self-reliant, and by remembering to relax. The 11th lesson in creative psycho-cybernetics teaches you how to stand up under stress, how to change a crisis into an opportunity.
Do you mean, Doctor, by positively approaching a stress, one can overcome this stress?
Yes, by not only positively thinking about it, but doing something creatively about it. You learn how to stand up under stress when you learn to practice without pressure, like money players in sports. You tackle a problem realistically by exercising your servo mechanism, your success mechanism within you that will steer your mind to a productive goal. The 12th and final lesson of creative psycho-cybernetics teaches you that you can be a winner just as easily as you can be a loser. You can change your luck deliberately. How? By simply concentrating on these two important points. One, you refuse, absolutely refuse, to let your negative feelings like frustration make your image shrink and shrink and shrink to the size of a microbe. You concentrate on your confidences of the past and use it continually in the present undertaking until it becomes second nature to you. You can use it whenever you want to, and it's like instant confidence. You become a winner when you learn to be yourself by understanding your rights, that you came into this world to succeed and not to fail, by selecting realistic goals to reach fulfillment, by exercising your creative success mechanism to achieve these goals. Now, these are the 12 fundamental points in creative psycho-cybernetics that will teach you to reach self-fulfillment as a human being, to be successful and happy.
Dr. Maltz has been lecturing before many audiences throughout the United States. And during his tenure of time, many questions have been asked. A list of those most frequently asked has been compiled.
Can you tell me how we can be ourselves?
Yes. Regardless of age or career, whether you're a student or a teacher, a doctor or a nurse, a lawyer or secretary, a salesman or a manager, the important thing to realize is that you can't be a friend to others unless you're a friend to yourself first. You can't be a success with others unless you're a success with yourself first. You can't have the love of other people unless you have the love of yourself first. Even though you've made a blunder, you must learn to rise above it. It means hard work, but it's the greatest adventure in your whole life, something worth fighting for. You program yourself for countless goals, and when you reach one goal, the business of creative living is to reach for another.
How does this differ from positive thinking?
That's a very good question. Now, positive thinking says what it means. Think positively. Now, creative psycho-cybernetics means more than thinking. You think creatively, but you change that thought into a creative performance. In other words, psycho-cybernetics means doing. When? Now.
Is this a form of psychoanalysis?
No, it isn't, but it goes further than that. Psychoanalysis delves into the past, which is perfectly all right. But what is vital is that suppose you know about the past. What are you going to do about your life now, N-O-W? And creative psycho-cybernetics means living creatively now, regardless of what the past is.
Dr. Maltz's remarkable insight into human behavior and performance improvement spread through all sports, corporate America, and the professions. Today, thousands are rediscovering the power of psycho-cybernetics, and thousands more are discovering these ideas for the first time. In any case, the techniques developed by Dr. Maltz were far ahead of the time, and they are timeless. Maybe even more important and valuable today than ever before. Let's take a look at some of these key ideas.
One of my problems in playing the trumpet, as well as other areas of my life, is I can rehearse something over and over again, but the minute I get in a tense situation or get in public or have a solo or an exposed part, I make a mistake. Well, as I begin to listen to the tapes and put into practice the ideas in that, I discovered that wasn't the real me that was making the mistakes. And as soon as I discovered who I really was and was able to put to work the exercises, the relaxation, then when I came to those scary spots in public and I began to eliminate those problems that I had before, and my public playing is much better.
All of us are frustrated sometimes during the day. I'm not talking about that. That's a human characteristic. And it's there for a definite reason, to stimulate one to rise above it. And that's what success is. I'm talking about chronic frustration, some hurt feeling, some agony of distress, some heartache, some grief, some guilt of the past that we carry on our mental backs day in and day out, many, many years thereafter. So that's the frustration I'm talking about. And if we know these red light signs, we can avoid them. They have fear involved in it. We come into this world in uncertainty. We live in it, and we pass on in uncertainty. But the business of living is to rise above uncertainty, to bend it to our will. Frustration has an element of retreat. Just because you've made a mistake, you retreat from life. You can't do that. In that instance, you sort of surrender your self-image, your dignity. You can't do that either, because the only treasure house you have within you is your self-respect. And if you're going to deny it expression, no one else will help you. So that when you practice this chronic frustration, dramatically speaking, you're like a traitor to yourself. You take a knife and symbolically kill yourself, and you needn't do that. So that when you refuse to turn your back on negative feelings, you put yourself in the position where you're like permitting termites within you to bore holes into your spiritual being, letting the fluids of your life force disappear down the drain. When people realize these dramatic aspects of it, that when you just hold on to negative feelings constantly, and that you're no more than a failure just because you failed, in these instances you practice chronic frustration and you become much less than what you're capable of being.
These are inner commands, and we respond to... See, we just both responded to the telephone. We're so conditioned that we'll stop doing about anything. I mean, we'll actually even get out of a bathtub soaking wet to answer the phone.
So you're saying that we have commands that are embedded in our self-conscious that are that strong, that powerful.
Right.
We live inside two boxes. One, the big box, the solid line represents real limits, and we all have some real limits. But inside that box, the much smaller box shown with the dotted line is made up of self-imposed limits. Now, we manufacture these limits from things we've been taught, been conditioned to believe about ourselves and the world around us. For example, if as a youngster you heard a lot of things like poor but honest, money doesn't grow on trees, don't be a show-off, money can't buy happiness, a day late and a dollar short, that's just the way I am. Well, these have become embedded commands that now limit your ability to enjoy financial success. But did these ideas come from people qualified to teach you about financial success? Echolalia is a medical term for the repetition of words and phrases picked up from others until they become beliefs. These inner limitations set your thermostats and restrict your ability to learn, to enjoy health, to relax, to handle stress, even to love. Psycho-Cybernetics gives you many skills for resetting your thermostats and expanding your abilities. These skills make things that are now difficult for you remarkably easy.
Lee, how does the automatic success mechanism work?
Well, if you'll get on this bicycle, I'll show you.
I was afraid of that.
Okay, now I'd like for you to put your feet up on the pedals, but don't move forward.
Oh, obviously a bicycle was not meant just to sit on, was it?
That's exactly right. That bicycle was designed to work best when it and its rider are moving forward.
Then what is the point?
We human beings were also designed to work best when we are moving forward towards goals that are interesting and meaningful to us. We are natural goal-seeking mechanisms. We feel best, we're healthiest, we enjoy life most, and we get along with others best when we are progressing towards goals.
I buy that. I'm at my best when I'm working towards a goal, but then why don't more people actually set goals and achieve their goals?
Many people sabotage their goal-seeking mechanism with doubts, worry, frustration, confusion, and insecurity. Some people are boxed in by their past programming and embedded commands. When they try to use goals, they don't get good results because of all that interference.
So Psycho-Cybernetics can actually get rid of all of the interference that we have in our lives.
That's right. Dr. Maltz used the principles of missile navigation technology to develop skills that lock people in on their goals, totally insulated from negative interference. It starts with a psycho-cybernetic skill called clearing the calculator. Before you can use this calculator to solve new problems, you have to hit the clear button and clear it of old data and old problems.
When Dr. Maltz talks about emotional surgery, he's clearing out all the old negative data and interference so that the automatic success mechanism is free to work.
That's exactly right.
Let's look at another one of these skills.
Okay, this one is called rehearsal in the theater of your mind. Watch the monitor and we'll see how it works.
Famous champion golfer Ben Hogan told Time magazine that he made each golf shot in his imagination, not just visualizing it, but actually feeling it, experiencing it before making the shot. Ben said this gave him perfect muscle memory. Synthetic successful experience leads to actual successful experience. Through rehearsal in the theater of your mind, you can build up success reflexes and automatic success behaviors.
Here's how this works in everyday life.
I first got a copy of Psycho-Cybernetics about 10 years ago when I was training heavily for the Olympics. And I especially enjoyed the theater of your mind concept. Visualizing something in the theater of your mind and seeing it happen right before your eyes, even though it hasn't happened yet. And that worked with me in my training, and the achievements I've made, I think I can attribute a lot of them to the visualization techniques that I was able to use. And now with Liberty Financial, we founded it in 1986. The company is currently growing at 15% a month, and I'm just constantly visualizing, and I'm constantly achieving as a result of the visualization. And I think anybody who gets a hold of this course is going to find the same results I did.
Every day, or every evening actually, before the next day comes about when I'm going to do a surgery, I will go over that surgery in my mind. The other way it works is, of course, when you have to do something new and it becomes stressful that perhaps you're not up for that task. We've recently designed a new joint for a thumb, and I remember the first time we did it. It was a very stressful situation. But by realizing previous successes, previous things that we had done in surgery or in dealing with patients, it made it that much easier because you go in with a sense of confidence.
It happens that Salvador Dali, a very dear friend of mine, this famous Spanish painter, gave me a painting of his concept of psycho-cybernetics. He had a world in it, and one half of the world was in shadow from frustration, where man's image has shrunken to the size of a small potato. The other half is in sunlight from confidence. And there man's image is 10 feet tall, and he's walking towards the sun. What is he trying to say? That's the whole essence of psycho-cybernetics. We're a composite, a combination of heartaches and happiness, of misfortunes and good luck. And we must realize that frustrations are there for us to rise above it. and to turn it into a kinetic, productive force of confidence. Now, what is confidence? Is your capacity to rise above a mistake. So when you take the trick of the moneyed players in sports, now what happens with them? They're in a contest. They're out to win. Now suppose they lose. They're not going to carry that loss into the next contest the next day. It reminds me of the time that when Babe Ruth struck out, one reporter said to him, "Babe, what do you think about when you strike out?" He said, "Well, I think of hitting home runs." Now that's the point of living. You don't remember the thousands of times Babe Ruth struck out, but you remember that he was a SWAT king.
And if he had remembered the thousands of times he struck out every time, he
He'd
wouldn't have
never
been
hit
the
the
SWAT
ball.
king.
Absolutely. So the point of the matter is, you think of the past, if you have to, of your confidences. The business of creative living, of psycho-cybernetics, which is the basis of our workshop that we're going to start this month, the 23rd and 25th of January at Marriott House, is just this, the essence of it. What are you going to be in life, a person of frustration or a person of confidence? And it's up to you to make the decision. When you look in the mirror, you're going to say, what kind of day is this going to be for me, Charlie, old boy? What kind of day is it going to be for me, Betsy, baby? You make the decision. And you make the decision by remembering the money players in sports. When they lose a contest, the next day they're out to win, and that's what life should be.
Now it's time to begin our 12-week adventure with Dr. Maltz's Zero Resistance Living program.